Hi guys, good night everybody. Just let me know if you guys can hear me before we start, please. All right guys, great. Right, so Terry here, right? So I'll be doing some basically 10 free sessions with you guys, right? Between now and the exam, right? As you should know, the maths paper 2 exam, there are 10 questions. So that's why I'm doing 10 sessions, right? So the first session is going to be based on question 1 type questions, which is basically numeracy as well as consumer arithmetic, right? This is typically how I suggest to students students how they prepare for the maths exam, right? Some of you all may think you have a lot of time between now and the exam, but there isn't much time between now and the actual CSEC maths exam, right? So let's just jump into it, right? So these sessions are going to be held every Wednesday at 8 p.m., right? All right, so we're going to go through some exam type questions that could potentially come in your exam, right? So we have a question here: using a calculator or otherwise, right? Calculate this fraction calculation here, right? Now, my suggestion to you guys, now I know some students like to work questions from scratch, but this is the paper 2. And if they tell you you can use a calculator in order to work this question, my suggestion to you is go ahead and go this route, right? If you do not have a calculator that works fractions, I suggest you get one now and make sure you know how to use it in order to answer these questions in the exam, right? So to work this calculation here, we have a numerator here and we have a denominator here, right? So if you have a question like this, what you should do is to work out the numerator first and then divide it by the denominator, right? Now let me see if I can pull this up here so you can see, right? Hopefully you guys are seeing my calculator up here, right? So what we want to work out 3 2/5. So this is 3. Now this calculator has a fraction function, right? So 3 2/5. Right? That's how we enter 3 2/5 minus 1 1/3, 1 1/3, right? And you're gonna get an answer here which is 2 1/15. So this here is 2 1/15, and then we're still gonna divide that by a half. So when we divide this by a half, so we're just gonna divide by a half. That's 1/2, and we're gonna get this here, which is 4 2/15. Right? 4 2/15, right? So like I said, my suggestion to you is to use the calculator in order to work this out, because time is going to be your enemy in that paper 2, right? So that's my first example here. We have our next one here, right? Again, you have a numerator and you have a denominator, and what we should do is to first work out the numerator, right? So in this case here, it is going to be 4 3/5, right, minus 2 1/7, and we're going to get 2 16/35. So this is 2 16/35, and you're dividing that by, now you can work this part out in your head. A half by a quarter is going to give me 1/8. So now we're going to perform that division there now. So that's going to be 2 16/35 divided by 1/8, and we're going to get 19 23/35. Right? So you can get question 1, part A, part B. You might get a question on fractions, right? Now, if you don't get a question on fractions, then likely we're going to get a question on decimals, right? So let me just move this calculator from here. Right. So let's say we had something like this now, right? So we have some decimals here to work out, and we want to calculate this here, but sometimes they may ask us to write our answers to 2 decimal places, 3 significant figures, sometimes standard form as well, right? So what we're going to do, I'm going to use a calculator to work this out here. So this here is right? So we're going to work out 1.75, and we need to cube that. That's all. So we have a cube button here, so we're cubing that, minus, now you need to tell the calculator to divide the 0.04 by 0.2 before doing the subtraction. So you're going to put a bracket, right? 0.04 divided by 0.2, close the brackets, and then we're going to get this. So this here is my actual answer, right? So this is the actual answer here, but I'm just going to write it out. So that's 5.159375. Right? Now that's the answer, right? But they want us to give the answer first in part E, correct to 2 decimal places. Now if you want to give this to 2 decimal places, this here is your first decimal point, right? That's right after the point, that's the first decimal place, sorry. This is your second decimal place here, right? So if you want to give your answer to 2 decimal places, right, it's going to be 5.159375. So we need to look at, you want to give your answer to 2 decimal places, so we need to look at the number right after, which is my 3rd decimal place. Now that number is a 9, so it's greater than 5. So therefore, you're going to write your answer as 5.16. So that's my answer correct to 2 decimal places, right? In part B, we want to write our answer to 3 significant figures. So again, you need to look at the actual answer. That's 5.159375. And if we want this to 3 significant figures, this 5 is my first significant figure. This is my second, right? And this is my 3rd significant figure. Now you want to give your answer to 3 significant figures here. So in this case here, we're going to look at our 4th significant figure, which is a 9. And that's also greater than 5. So therefore, I need to increase this here. So both of them happen to be the same answer. This is 5.16 as my answer, right? Alright, so let's move on to our next example here. Alright, so this one again is based on decimal places. So we want to work out 0.062 multiplied by tan 23. Now the only way to work this out is by using the calculator, right? So if you use your calculator, you're going to get this. Now I'm just going to make a suggestion here, guys. So sometimes your calculator could be in degrees, or it could be in radians, right? So you need to be careful with this. So I suggest before you do any calculations involving trigonometry, ensure that you reset the calculator. When you reset the calculator, you go to degrees. So in this case here, let's work out 0.062 multiplied by tan 23, and we're going to get 0.0263. Right, I'm just going to put the full answer here, and I'll show you how we're going to answer the other stuff, right? All right, now, this is my answer. This is the actual answer here, right? Now, let me just move this calculator here. It's blocking you guys. Yeah, so that's my actual answer here, but I want to give my answer to 2 decimal places, right? If I want to give my answer to 2 decimal places, all we need to do, we need to look at the first decimal place, which is a 0. The second decimal place is this 2. And the 3rd decimal place here is the 6. So if you want your answer to 2 decimal places, it's going to be 0.0, right? Now this 6 here is more than 5, so we need to increment our 2, so this is going to be 0.03. So that's our answer to 2 decimal places, right? For part B, we want our answer correct to 3 significant figures. So now we have to look to see which is our significant figures. So in this case here, let me just remove some of this here. So in terms of significant figures, this 2 is actually my first significant figure. This is your second significant figure, and this is your third significant figure, right? Now we want our answers to 3 significant figures, so we need to know where the fourth is, right? So our answer is going to be 0.026, right? 3, right? 1, 2, 3. We want our answer to 3 significant figures, so this is our third here. So it's going to be 0.0263. That's it. That's our answer to 3 significant figures, right? Another thing they can ask us in the exam is to write our answers in standard form, right? Now let me show you how to do this. 0.026. Give me 1 second, guys. Yeah, so let's write this in standard form. If you have to write this in standard form here, what you're going to do, you're going to do this. You're going to move your decimal point to the right, 1, 2. As soon as you reach the first digit there, right, you're going to write this as 2.63 multiplied by 10 to the power. Now, anytime you move your decimal point to the right, this is going to be a negative sign here. And I move my decimal two places to the right, so it's going to be 2.63 by 10 to the minus 2, right? That's what we're going to get here. Right? Yeah, so let's see what people are saying here. All right, cool. All right, let's see what else we can ask here. Right, so in question 1, you guys can get consumer arithmetic, right? You can get consumer arithmetic. So Carl purchases 400 t-shirts at a cost of $23,300. So this is what people typically do. They might go to a country where they can buy things cheap, right? And then they come and resell it in their home country. So Carl purchases 400 t-shirts at a cost of $23,300, right? When the t-shirts arrive in his country, the customs department charge him a tax at a rate of 30%. He prints a design on each t-shirt, right? Each t-shirt, and eventually sells all at a price of $120, right? So the first thing we want to calculate here, right? Let me get a blank slide here. Hold on. Right, so back to Carl here, right? So the first thing we want to calculate here in part A, calculate the price paid for each t-shirt. Now, if he purchases 400 t-shirts, and this is the amount he paid for all the t-shirts, right? So the cost per t-shirt, so that's the cost for one, right? All we need to do is to take the price that we have here, the 23,300, right? And we're going to divide that by 400 to figure out the cost per t-shirt, right? So in this case, it's going to be 23,300 divided by 400, right? So that means every t-shirt that he purchased, right, is actually $58.25, right? So these are the kinds of questions you could get in question 1 pertaining to consumer arithmetic. So that's part E. The next part, we want to calculate the tax paid to the customs department. Now, the customs department So if you all ever bought anything online, you have to pay taxes on it. So in this case here, the tax is at a rate of 30%, right? So that means that what we need to do, we need to take this value here, this 23,300, and we need to figure out what is the tax on that, right? So the tax paid, so this part B here, so the tax is going to be 30%, right? Multiplied by that 23,300. So that's the same as saying 30 over 100, which is 0.3, multiplied by 23,300, and you're going to get 6,000. So this is how much tax he has to pay, 6,990, right? That's his tax that he has to pay, right? Now, we want to calculate the total cost of purchasing the t-shirts, right? Now remember, he paid 23,300 for the t-shirts, but now he brought it into the country and he has to pay this tax on it. So the actual amount that he paid in total for getting these t-shirts is going to be, so the total is going to be the 23,300, right, plus the tax, which is 6,990. And he's actually paying $30,290, right? So that's his total that he's paying for all of these t-shirts, right? Now, my suggestion to you when it comes to these questions is to read them carefully, right? Try to read the questions carefully, right? All right, I see some of you all working it out, great, right? Alright guys, so don't forget, hit like and subscribe when you can, alright? Please remember to do that. Alright, so that's the total cost of purchasing the t-shirts. In part D now, we want to calculate the total profit made by selling all of the t-shirts, right? Now, in the question, he prints a design on the t-shirt and then he sells each of them for $120. So when you're doing a question like this, please read carefully. So what we need to do, we need to find the amount that he received in sales, right? So his sales will be 400 t-shirts multiplied by $120, right? $120. So if you work this out here, that's going to be 400 multiplied by 120, and we're going to get $48,000, all right? Let's check something here, hold on. Right, yeah. So this is the amount of money that he's collecting when he sells all the t-shirts, right? If each one costs 120 and he has 400 to sell, that's the amount that he's going to collect. But the question says, and this is why you all need to read carefully, what is the total profit that he made? So this is the total he paid for bringing in the t-shirts, 30,290. So if you want to work out the profit, you're going to take whatever he's collecting, which is the 48,000, right, minus the cost to bring it in, right? That's purchasing plus the taxes. So that's 30,290. So therefore, he's making a profit here of $17,710. Right? Right? So I've seen some people getting that. Great. Right? So at least on the right track. Right? So that's part D here. Right? That's part D. And the last part of the question, part E, calculate the percentage profit of the cost price. Right? So if you all want to calculate percentage profit, right? Now the profit that he made here is the 17,710. That's a profit, right? But if you want to get percentage profit, you have to take that profit and divide it by how much he paid for everything, right? Now it's not just how much he paid, not the 23,300. You have to include the taxes as well. So you're going to use this figure here as your original amount he paid for the t-shirts. So that's 30,290 multiplied by 100, right? That's typically how we calculate percentage profit. It is profit divided by your cost price multiplied by 100. So that's 17,710 divided by 30,290 multiplied by 100. So his percentage profit is gonna be about 58.5%. Right? About 58.5. I saw some of you all went to 2 decimal places. That's fine. All right? That's fine. Right? Let's see what else we have here now. So we have a stove, right? A stove is purchased on hire purchase, right? Jade makes a down payment of $800 and makes 24 monthly installments of $400. So part A, right? So this is how people purchase some house appliances, right? They do it on something called hire purchase, right? So the down payment right is $800, right? So that's the down payment, but then she's making 24 installments of $400, right? So if it's 24 installments of $400, it means that she's actually paying 24 multiplied by $400, right? So that's going to be 24 by 400. So that's $9,600 here. Right? So the question, the first part of the question says, calculate the hire purchase price of the stove, right? So therefore the hire purchase price is going to be 9,600 plus 800, right? And you're going to get 10,400, right? I realize something is missing from the question itself, right? Just now. So the cash price stove is 8,000, right? That's the cash price of the stove, right? I was missing it. So the first part of the question says to calculate the hire purchase price. So usually when we do hire purchase, there's a down payment that we make. In this case, it was $800. Then she making equal monthly installments. So that's 400 by 24. That's the 9,600. So at the end of it, the total price she's paying for the item is $10,400, right? Part B now, right? Calculate the amount of money that she would have saved if the stove was purchased at the cash price, right? So if you are able to purchase something at cash price, that's typically the way we need to go with this, right? So if you want to get the amount that you'll save, all we need to do, so the savings would have been, we need to take the hire purchase price, which is always going to be more. So it's 10,400, right? Minus $8,000, right? So in this case here, it is going to be $2,400, right? So I've seen a lot of people saying that. Yep, that's essentially what it is, right? Right, so we can get hire purchase in that first question as well. Let's see what else we have here. So Jamal makes an investment of $1,875 at 4% simple interest, right? Guys, CXC loves simple interest. If you don't get it in the paper 2, you're gonna get it in the paper 1 for sure, right? So Jamal makes an investment of $1,875 at 4% simple interest. So you all need to learn this formula. It is not given to you in the formula sheet, so you have to know it. Interest, simple interest, is principal by rate by time divided by 100, right? That's what simple interest is. So now, the first part, part A, we want to calculate the interest earned after 18 months. Now, this is a trick question, right? This is a trick question because when you're using the simple interest formula, this time here has to be in years, right? But if you notice something here, they gave me this in months. right? Now, 18 months, right? If you all know what a year is, 1 year, right, is actually 12 months. 1 year is 12 months, right? So if you have 18 months, that's going to be 12 months plus 6. So this is actually 1.5 or 1.5 years, right, guys? So whenever you have a question involving simple interest, you need to ensure that the time has to be in years. So if you see months, you need to convert that months into years, right? 18 months, right, is actually made up of, let me write it like this. This might make more sense. So 18 months, right, is really made up of 12 months plus 6 months, right? So 12 months will give me the year, and then 6 months is a half a year. So 18 months is 1.5 years, right? So in this case here, what we're going to do, we're going to work out the simple interest using the formula. So simple interest is principal by rate by time over 100. So in this case, the principal is 1875. That's the investment. Multiply by the rate is 4%. Multiply by the time is 1.5. And we're going to divide that by 100, right? So therefore, our interest will be 1875 multiplied by 4 by 1.5 divided by 100, and we're going to get $112.50. Right? Yeah, so I've seen a lot of people have that as well, right? Great job. All right, now that's part E, right? So that's part E. Part B now, the total amount of money, right, in his account after 3 years, right? What is the total amount of money in the account after 3 years, right? So this is part B here, right? Now, remember, you are trying to work out how much money is in the account after 3 years. So therefore, we have a time frame now. So what you could do, right, you can work out what should be the interest, right, after 3 years. So again, that's going to be principal, which is 1875, multiplied by the rate, which is 4%, by, we're doing this for 3 years, all over 100. So that's going to give us $225. Now this 225 here represents the interest, but what we want here is the total amount of money in the account, right? So therefore the amount, right, is going to be the original value, which is the 1875, plus the interest that he would have gotten, which is the 225. So therefore the total amount of money at the end of this thing after 3 years would be $2,100. Right? So just remember to add the principal to that, right? What you worked out there, that 225 there is only the interest, but the amount of money that is actually in the account will be the interest plus the original amount that you put into it, right? Right? So some of these questions, they tend to be a little tricky, so you have to be careful. You just have to be careful, right? Read them carefully. All right, let's see what else we have here. How long, right? How long will it take for his investment to earn $450? Now, in a question like this here, they're asking you how much will it take to earn this amount of money. So this figure here, this $450 here is actually your simple interest, right? That's a simple interest. And when they ask us how long, they're asking us to work out time in this case here. So this is part C. This is part C. Right, and you want to work out your time. So guys, you all need to be able to rearrange this formula in the exam. Eh? So interest is principal by rate by time over 100. So if you want to work out time, time is going to be equal to 100 multiplied by I all over principal by rate, right? That's the formula to calculate our time. So it's going to be 100 multiplied by the interest. The interest was 450, right? Divided by the principal, which was 1875, right? Multiplied by the rate, which was, what it was, 4%? Yeah, 4%. Right? So let's see what that gives us. So this is going to be 100 multiplied by 450 divided by 1875 multiplied by 4, right? And we're going to get 6, right? So this here is going to be 6 years, right? So that is how long we need to keep the money in the account in order for it to reach, to get an interest of $450. Right, I see a lot of people had that as the answer. All right, great. All right, let's see what we have here. Aha. So a lot of students, they kind of ignore compound interest, right? They tend to ignore that because they feel it's not going to come in the exam. But compound interest can come both in the paper 2 and more recently it has appeared in the paper 1 as well, right? Now the compound interest formula, again, this is not given to you in the formula sheet. So the amount at the end of an investment is equal to the principal multiplied by 1 plus the rate over 100 raised to the power n. That formula is not given to you in the formula sheet. You need to know that, right? What this formula does, it gives us the total amount, right? The total amount in an investment after a period, right, of n years. So the first part of this question here says, calculate the total amount of the money in the account after 3 years. So what they want us to work out is A, the amount in the investment after 3 years. So the principal is the amount that you put in into the savings, which is 6250, and you're multiplying that by 1 plus the rate in this case is 6%, so it's going to be 6 over 100, and we're leaving the investment here for 3 years, right? So you're using a calculator for this, and what I suggest students do is this: 6250 multiplied by, now 6 over 100 is 0.06, so this is actually 1.06 cube, right? So I'm going to work this out here. This is going to be 1.06 cube multiplied by 6250, and you're going to get a total amount of 744.385, right? So that is going to be the total amount, right, after, right? That's going to be the total amount after that period of 3 years, right? Right? So that's what the formula gives us. It gives us the total amount in the account after a period of time. Now part B now, if they were to ask us for what is the compound interest paid after 3 years, right? What is the compound interest? Now to work out the compound interest, right? Because there are lots of students who think this is the formula to calculate the compound interest. That's not the formula, right? What you need to do, you need to take the total amount that you have now in the investment, which is 744.385, right? And you're going to minus what the investment was, which in this case was 6,250, right? I know for some of you all this is the first time you're seeing this, but take note of this, right? Minus 6250. So the actual interest that is being paid is given by this figure here, 1193.85. right? So that's on compound interest, right? What tends to come a lot in the exam too is wages, right? Wages tend to come a lot in the exam, right? So we have a factory worker here, and this worker is paid a basic wage of $20.50 per hour, right? For a 40-hour week. Overtime is paid at 1.5 times the basic hourly wage, right? Sorry. So things you need to know about overtime. Overtime can be paid at time and a half, which is 1.5. Overtime could be paid as double time, or it can be paid as triple time, right? That's typically how overtime works, right? Once you work beyond a certain number of hours, your wage rate is going to increase, right? So for part A here, right, calculate the factory worker's basic weekly wage. So this is the hourly rate, right, $20.50, and he's working 40 hours. So therefore, the basic wage, right, is equal to 40 hours multiplied by the hourly wage rate, which is $20.50. All right, and that's going to give me 40 multiplied by $20.50, and that's going to be $820. Right, so that's his basic wage, right, on a weekly basis, right? Right, so that's part E, right? Part B now, right? So in April, the factory worker worked a total of 51 hours. So that means he's working overtime here, because a normal work week is 40 hours, right? So what we need to do, we need to figure out the first thing we need to do is to know what the overtime wage rate is. So overtime wage rate. So when you all go out into the real world, right? I know sometimes you all think maths is not important. You need to understand this. You don't want to go out there and work and people robbing you, right? So your overtime wage rate, right, is going to be, it's time and a half, so it's 1.5 multiplied by the hourly wage rate, the basic one, which is the $20.50. So that's going to be 1.5 multiplied by $20.50, right, which is $30.75. Right? So that's my overtime wage rate. Now, since he's working a total of 51 hours, so you have 51 hours. Now, part of that 51 hours there is going to be 40. So that's his basic wage here, which is going to be $820. Right? Now, we have some overtime hours inside here, which is going to be 51 minus 40. Right? So 51 minus 40 here, we're going to get 11. Right? So it's 11 hours overtime. So therefore, if you want to work out his overtime wage, it's going to be 11 hours multiplied by the hourly rate, which is this figure here. That's $30.75. Right? So that's going to give me $338.25. So this is 338.25. Right? So therefore, if you want to work out this man's wage, right, if he works a total of 51 hours, you're going to have to take his basic wage plus the overtime, right? So therefore, his total wage, right, is going to be that $820 plus the right, so we're gonna get a total wage of $1158.25. All right, I hope that making some kind of sense. right? So I see one or two people worked it out, all right? All right, so this is part A, part B, and part C, all right? Calculate the number of overtime hours that the factory worker must work in order to earn a total wage of $11.89. Now CXC likes to bring this kind of question, right? They like this question. So they're giving you his total wages and they're asking us to figure out how many overtime hours did he work for, right? So what I normally tell students to do is to draw a simple diagram like this. So his total wage is, where is it? $11.89. So this is the total wage here, $11.89. But what you need to remember is that $11.89 is made up of a basic component, right? And we know what the basic wage is. If he works 40 hours, his basic wage is $820. So therefore, this here is going to be $820, right? So now what we left with here is overtime. So to get the overtime amount, what you're gonna do, you're gonna take the $11.89, right? And sorry, $11.89, and you're gonna subtract the $820. Right? What that does there, that gives us the overtime wage. So that's going to be $11.89 minus $820. You're going to get $369. Right? Now, this figure here is your overtime wage. Right? So if you want to work out the number of hours, right, all we need to do is to take that figure, that $369, and we're going to divide that by the overtime wage rate, which was $30.75. Right? So 369 divided by 30.75, and you're going to get 12. Right? So that's the number of hours overtime that this factory worker worked. Right? Right, Vivek, hope you're doing okay. Alright guys, so I hope you're all doing okay. Right, just remember, hit like and subscribe and share the videos. Right, all of this has been recorded so you get access to it. Right, so don't worry if you miss anything. Right, so that is wages and overtime, right? We can get a question like that, right? What else we have here now? So we have a next question here. George wants to sell his used car for $60,000, right? After 6 months, the car is not sold, right? So this happens sometimes. You want to sell something and you can't get it sold. So one of the things we do is to reduce the price. So he offers a discount of 15%. Shivani takes up the offer and decides to purchase the car. She makes a down payment of $15,000 and borrows the rest from the bank. Now this is typically what happens in real life. You see a car and you want to buy it, but you don't have enough money, but you have some money. So you might make a down payment and you need to borrow the rest from the bank, right? So she's able to make a down payment of $15,000, right? Plus the rest of the money is gonna come from the bank. So she has to repay the loan in equal monthly installments of $950, yeah, over a period of 4 years, right? When you have a longish question like this, read it carefully, right? Try your best to read carefully. So the first part, calculate the discount offered, right? So remember, George is having trouble selling the car. So the discount now, we just want the discount. So the discount is 15%. So it's going to be 15% multiplied by the original asking price, which is $60,000, right? So that's the same as saying 15 over 100 multiplied by 60,000, right? That's going to be 9,000. Wow, this is a good deal, right? So you get a $9,000 off of this vehicle here one time, right? He can't get it sold, he has to discount it, right? So that's part E. Part B now, calculate the cost of the car after the discount. So this part B, so the value, right? I'm just going to use the word value here. So all we're going to do, we're going to take the 60,000 and we're going to minus 9,000. Right? So the value of the car here is going to be $51,000. Right? So that's how much you're going to pay for the car. Right? That's how much he's asking for the car now. Right? Right? People are asking if it's only question one. Yes, there are 10 sessions. So each Wednesday, I'm going to do one particular type of question. Right? So today is only focusing on question one. Next week Wednesday, we'll be only focusing on algebra. Right? Question 2 in your exam is going to be on algebra. Right? Right, so that's part B. Part C now, calculate the amount of money borrowed from the bank. Now, here's the thing. This is the value of the car. Right? That's how much you have to pay for the car. But she's making a down payment of $15,000. So that means that the amount that she has to borrow, so this part C, so the borrowed amount, right, it has to be, we're going to take the value of the car, which is 51,000. You're going to minus a down payment, which is 15,000. So this is going to be 51 minus 15, right? And you're going to get 36,000, right? You're going to get 36,000. So this is how much money she has to borrow from the bank, right? Let me see something here. Yeah, right. That's typically what happens in the bank anyways, right? So that's how much you borrowed from the bank. The next thing we have to do is calculate the total amount of money repaid to the bank, right? Now, she has a monthly installment of $950, and she is paying this over a period of 4 years, right? So I'm just going to put the word bank here, right? So the amount she's going to pay back will be $950, right? Multiplied by, so she's paying this over a period of 4 years, but remember she's paying this on a monthly basis. So in 4 years, right? Every year is 12 months, so you got to multiply by 12 here. So when I work this out, this is going to be the total amount she pays back to the bank. So that's 950 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 12. So she's actually paying back 45,600. That's a lot more, which is typically how it is in real life, right? So this is 45,600 she has to pay back to the bank, right? Now, part D, we want to calculate what is the percentage profit made by the bank. Right? That's part E. Now, she actually borrowed $36,000. That's the amount that was borrowed, right? So the bank is making a profit on this. So the percentage profit, right, is going to be, now what you need to do is, you need to find the difference between these two numbers here, because that is going to give you the profit that the bank is making, right? So the profit that the bank is making is going to be 45,600 minus the 3,600. No, wait, just now. I feel I missed out a zero here. This should have been 36,000. Yeah, 36,000. Yeah, 36,000. So that's 45,600 minus 36,000. That's going to be the profit. And when you find in percentage profit, you have to put it over the original amount. So the original amount borrowed is 36,000, and then we have to multiply that by 100%, right? So that's 45,600 minus 36,000, right? Divided by 36,000, multiplied by 100, and we're going to get about 26.7%. Yes, all of these streams are being recorded, so you get access to it after. So don't worry, it'll be there. Right, so that's a question here based on, well, it's a combination of things, right? Combination of things. right? Currency conversion is something that typically comes in the exam as well, right? If you don't get it in the paper 2, it may appear in the multiple choice, right? So the exchange rate between US dollars and TT dollars is as follows. So one US dollar is $6.80 TT dollars, right? Now, the cost of gasoline in Trinidad and Tobago is $6.95, that's TT dollars per liter, right? Jasper fills 12 liters of gasoline at a gas station. We want to calculate the amount paid in TT dollars, right? Calculate the amount paid in TT dollars. So let me work part A up here, right? So he purchased, now the cost per liter is $6.95, right? So therefore, if you know you're paying $6.95 per liter and he's purchasing 12 liters, to get that answer, it's simply going to be 12 multiplied by $6.95, right? So that's going to give me my TT cost. So that's TT, right? And that's going to be 12 multiplied by 695. And we're going to get $83.40, right? So this is $83.40, TT dollars, right? So that's part A. Part B now, we want to figure out the amount of money that is paid in US dollars. So all right, so let's say we know the conversion, we know what the conversion is, right? Now, the key to working out a conversion question is to write your statements properly, right? So this is in 1 US is $6.80. I want to figure out the amount of money that I just paid for that gas. I want to figure out the US amount. To do that, you're going to write over the statement here, in such a way that US dollars is on the right hand side, right? That's typically what we do. So what we're going to do, we're going to say, all right, well, $6.80, right, TT dollars, right, is really equivalent to 1 US dollar, right? So that's my statement. I've written it over so that the US dollar is on the right hand side. So therefore, remember the amount he paid for the gasoline is $83.40. So you're going to put $83.40 TT dollars, right, is equal to, right? Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take this number multiplied by this number and divide by this number, right? That's how we simply do our currency conversion. So this is going to be 83.40 multiplied by 1 divided by $6.80, right? So when I work this out here, I'm going to get about $12.26, right? So you're getting about $12.26. So this is 12.26, right? And that is in US dollars, right? So that's how we perform a conversion like that, right? Right, so that's part B. Part C now, Jasper paid $8.18 US, right, to fill some gas. How many liters did he purchase? Now, some of these questions, they seem simple, right, but it requires some thought process before you actually work it out. What happened here is that we know how much per liter in TT dollars. So if I had to do a question like this, what I would do first is to figure out how many TT dollars is this $8.18, right? Now again, when you're doing a currency conversion, write your statement in such a way so that the answer, right, or what you're trying to figure out is on the right hand side. So if you want to convert this to TT dollars, you're going to write your statement like this. 1 US dollar, right, is equal to $6.80 TT dollars, right? So let's work out for $8.18. Let's see what that is. So 8.18 US dollars right, is equal to, now the concept is the same, right? What you're going to do, you're going to take this figure here, multiply by this figure here, and divide by whatever this is, right? So in this case, it's going to be 8.18 multiplied by $6.80 divided by 1, and that is going to give me, so that's 8.18 multiplied by $6.80. So that's going to be approximately, now guys, when you're doing money, work your money to 2 decimal places, right? So this is going to be $55.62 TT dollars, right? So that's the amount of money that he spent on this gas here. So if you want to work out the number of liters, right? So number of liters, right? All we need to do is to take that figure, that 55.62, right, and divide it by the cost per liter, which is $6.95 TT dollars. Right, and I'm getting approximately 8 liters. Right, so that's the amount of gasoline that he purchased for this $8.18. Right. Right, so some of you all worked it out, great. No? Alright guys, so that is our next question here, right? We have some currency conversion inside here. Let's see what else we have here. Right? Alright, so we have a question here on wages and income tax, right? So John is paid a monthly salary, right, of $6,000. He's given a tax-free allowance of $12,000, right? So if you all understand how taxes work, right? Usually employees, they get a tax-free allowance. There's a certain amount of money for which they are not taxed. So if you have so the personal allowance in the past in Trinidad may have been something like $72,000. Then it was increased. I think the current figure is $90,000. So let's see how we're going to work this. So he's paid a monthly salary of $6,000. Calculate his yearly salary. So when you're doing taxes, you do it on a yearly basis, right? So the yearly salary, right, is going to be $6,000, right? This is how much he's working for a month, and you're going to multiply that by 12. We have 12 months in a year, so 6 12s are 72. So his yearly income is $72,000, right? That's the answer for part E. That's his yearly salary, right? Part B now, calculate his taxable income. So normally we get tax allowances, right? So for part B here, his taxable income, right? To calculate the taxable income, you're going to take his gross salary, which is the $72,000, and you're going to minus his tax-free allowance, which is $12,000, right? And when I work this out here, I'm going to get $60,000, right? So that's his taxable income. That's the income that is actually going to be taxed, right? So in this case here, right, so all they wanted was the taxable income. That's it. And part C now, they want you to calculate his income tax. Well, income tax is usually, so income tax, right, is usually, in this case, they told us it's 25% of his taxable income. So you're going to take 25% and you're going to multiply that by 60,000, right? So that's going to be 0.25 multiplied by 60, 1, 2, 3. And you're going to get a total of $15,000, right? So that's his tax that he has to pay, right, at the end of this year, right? That's his tax. Right, let's see what else we have here. Right, so depreciation is something that appears ever so often in the exam. So anytime you buy a car, right, or you have some kind of machine, over time the value of that machine is going to decrease, right? Now, the original value of a car is $120,000 and it depreciates at a rate of 10% per annum, and we want to figure out what is the value after 2 years. Now, there are multiple ways in which we can work this, right? Now, if you are depreciating at a rate of 10% per annum, it means that at the end of the year, the value of the vehicle is only 90% of what it was originally. So what we can do, we can say after 1 year, right, the value is going to be 90%, right, multiplied by the 120,000, right? Like I said, there are more than one ways to work out depreciation, right? So this is going to be 0.9 multiplied by 120, 123, and that's going to give us 108,000, right? After 2 years, right, what we do, we find 90% of that figure that we just calculated it. So you're going to find 90% of 108,000. So that's going to be 0.9, and you're going to get 97,200. Right? I know some people may not have seen this before, but that's typically what we do. Right? Right, so that's the value of the car after 2 years, right? Now, just for your information, you could have used your compound interest formula in order to work this out as well, right? All you do, you make a slight change. Instead of you put in 1 plus the rate over 100, you're going to put 1 minus the rate over 100 raised to the power n. Right? So you can use the compound interest formula in order to work this out as well. Right? So check this. If you use the 120,000, right, 1 minus the rate in this case is 10%, so it's 10 over 100, right? And you want to work out the value after 2 years, right? Now, if I use my calculator, I will get 120,000, right? 1 minus 10 divided by 100 is 0.1. 1 minus 0.1 is 0.9. So this is 0.9 squared. If you all work this out here, you should get the exact same answer I got here. So that's going to be 0.9 squared multiplied by 120,000. And you're going to get the same 97,200. Right? So you could have used this formula here as well in order to work out your depreciation. Right? Yeah, that's another way of working it out. You can work out the depreciation and then subtract it from 120. So find 10% of the 120,000 and the answer you get, you subtract it. So that's a valid way as well, right? It's a little longer, but that is a valid way of working it out as well. That's typically how I would teach the class to do it anyways. Right? I have a next question here. So we have to be able to calculate percentage changes, right? Percentage changes. So the population of a country is 900,000. After 15 years, the population is 1,200,000. Calculate the percentage increase in the population. So percentage increase, right? And this could apply to anything. It is always whatever the increase is, right? So you're going from this figure to this figure. So the actual increase will be 1,200,000 minus the 900,000. So that's the actual increase, right? And we have to divide by the original amount. So the original amount in this case is 900,000. And you're multiplying that by 100. So the percentage increase here is going to be so that's 1,200,000 minus 900,000, right, divided by 900,000, right, multiplied by 100, and we're going to get 33.3%, right? We're going to get 33.3%, right? Alright guys, so like I said, question 1 in your exam, you're going to have questions involving fractions or decimals, right? You may have significant figures, decimal places, standard form, right? And you may also get some questions involving wages, right? Depreciation, right? Anything consumer arithmetic related will be found in this particular question, right? That's typically how the format of your exam is, right? So guys, this brings me to the end of my first session, right? This is the amount of time I have available at this point in time, right? So please remember to hit like and subscribe and share this to as many people as you want. The video is recording, right? So it'll be there. It'll be there on the channel, right? It'll be there on the channel. So next week Wednesday, so like I said, 10 sessions. So next week Wednesday, I'll be focusing on question 2, which is going to be based on algebra. All right. So guys, I hope this session was helpful to you guys, right? Take care, guys. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Be safe and good luck with your exam preparations, right? Don't give up as yet. Don't give up as yet. We still have time between now and the exam. All right. Good night, everybody. Yes, you can put 33 on a 10%. Yep.